there's a lot of people who feel that, and this is genuinely where I jump off the ship with even people who support me. They have this feeling that Donald Trump, because he doesn't have a record that is as damaged as Hillary Clinton, we that he's can't be as bad as Hillary Clinton. And this is where I really just fall off the ship with people because, if you take him at his word, then he has said enough for us to feel like he's someone that we should keep out of the White House. How do you handle that argument, or that justification rather, that Hillary Clinton has a track record of things that are and antithetical to progressivism versus Donald Trump, who all he has is rhetoric?
Well, in the first place, Trump has a lot more than rhetoric. I mean, right now, like an hour and a half from me, down in Atlantic City, there have been 1,000 workers at Trump Taj Mahal Casino who've been on strike since July 1st because of the combination of Trump and his pal or his crony Carl Icahn, who have between the two of them, they extracted more than $350 million out of the property since 2010, or just between 2010 and 2014. Icahn, as the principal debt holder now, two years ago, you got a bankruptcy court judge to permit him all on his own to cancel health care, pensions, and even severance pay for workers in that hotel. So think about that, right? Yeah. And that's how Trump has operated his business enterprises. He's bankrupted properties, screwed over workers, he's stiffed contractors, and he's been a hustler. And he's the original too big to fail, right? The first time I ever heard that phrase in my life was when Trump was trying to hustle his way out of bankruptcy at the end of the 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s. But beyond that, Trump has a political track record too. Trump jumped out in front of the birther movement in 2012. I can't believe anybody would sweep that away. And he's been courting the worst nativist, racist, xenophobic, and sexist tendencies in American politics, and he continues to court them, right? I mean, it's no accident, right? So, it takes, I don't know. I sometimes think, Benjamin, that, there are some, there are some tendencies among progressives that make you think about where the boundary of a mental illness actually begins, and I think it's mainly those that are so given to wish fulfillment, right? That what they want to be true, or are so convinced that what they want to be true has to be true because it's convenient for them to be true. And they tend to reduce politics down to soap operas, right? With good people and bad people, and good personalities and bad personalities, and good leaders and bad leaders. And we've seen that a lot. But we saw that recently enough, 8 years ago with Obama, right? They made this guy, who was never anything other than a well-polished, ordinary Democratic neoliberal, into something a lot bigger than that. And I'm not, complaining about well-intentioned, good-hearted people who don't follow politics all that closely and therefore were susceptible to going for the hype. But I'm talking about people who should have known better, right? And I don't know, man. The right wing has its version of people who go into politics to resolve their emotional issues and look for stuff to make them feel good about themselves. And I think our side has at least enough of those as well.
I have to dive in there because you actually you alluded to this in I think you alluded to it in your article, in your essay. And I personally, and just to those who are listening, I'm going to get everything out that I wanted to ask first, and then we're going to go down the list of questions that they sent us, if that's all right with you, Professor Reed.
Oh yeah, sure.
So as
Yeah, my time, man.
Awesome, awesome. I appreciate that. So when I read it, I felt that this article was more about the left movement than it was about Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. As I read that article, I saw you shining a mirror on two groups of people. One, those who are so idealistic, or they reduce the everything down to a matter of good and evil, and
Right.
in a lot of ways they're not even able to live up to the standard that they try to apply on someone else. I saw you doing that, and then I saw you shine a mirror on people like me, who, in the sense that you went out there, man. You went out there and you went bold and said, whatever you want to say about me, say about me. But this is what I believe is the best thing to do, is to vote for this lying neoliberal to keep Donald Trump out of office, while people like me have been just kind of, quietly going along saying, hey, do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to force it on you. So I felt that you shined a mirror on the group that is so idealistic that they sometimes don't get anything done. And then you shined it on the rest of us who probably know better, and we're just quiet because we don't want to ruffle a lot of feathers. And so I felt that you made this article more about us than Hillary Clinton. And then, because it's those types of tendencies, I feel, this is what I read, maybe I read more to it, but it's those types of tendencies that prevent the left from actually coalescing into an electoral powerhouse. Did you try to convey any of that, or did I just read too deep into it?
Well, no, I don't think you read too deeply into it. Except, I would say this. I mean, look. I mean, I've mainly done what you accuse yourself of having done, right? I mean, I just got to a point where there just seemed to be more and more of this never Hillary stuff coming from people who I would have assumed to know better, right? I mean, look. I mean, a 19-year-old Bernie or Busters, I mean, they don't know anything, right? I mean, this is all new to them, and I know this may sound condescending, but young people, I was like this when I was young too, tend to think the world began the moment they started paying attention to it, right? So I wanted to try to give them a lesson or something to think about, but I was also kind of frustrated about. Not people like myself who've made the calculation and made the determination that should be clear that the greater danger this time around is the possibility of Trump being elected, but just don't go around hectoring all their never Hillary friends about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because, like I said, I'm like that too, basically. I mean, I don't jack people up on the subway, right? I mean, but yeah, it's more directed at the first group, but also on your last point. I mean, that's really the key, or last observation. I wouldn't say keep the left from coalescing into an effective electoral movement, because unless you mean in the very long term, because I was also driven by something else I've been saying for a while now, that as leftists or progressives or whatever we're supposed to be, an important first step for us to take when thinking about political strategy is that we have no power and we don't count for anything. So the positions that we take, aren't going to change national politics. Our standing on principle certainly will not change national politics. When I was in college, one year, I think in late 1966 or early 1967, a group of 30 to 50 or sometimes up to 100 or more, or so righteous anti-war activists started holding a silent vigil on the wall on Franklin Street, where the campus meets downtown Chapel Hill. Every Wednesday for an hour from 12 to 1. It was a silent lunch hour vigil. And it was a powerful thing to see. And people did it. I mean, I left the campus in 69 and came back briefly in 71. I can't recall whether it was there when I came back. But they may have done it till the fall of Saigon, and it was, and I understand why people did it, and it's motivated by a feeling of powerlessness ultimately, right? That you can't change it, so the least you can do is bear witness against it, and that's a little bit like, a less combative version of a cartoon that was going around photocopy machines in offices when I was last an office worker at the end of the 70s and the very beginning of the 80s, of a mouse that you see from behind flipping the bird at an eagle that's bearing down on him with his talons. I mean, sometimes that's all you can do, right? And I've got to respect that, and I hope that I'll be that if I'm ever in that position, I'll be a strong enough person to do it. But I mean, to go out that way, myself. But the point is that gesture is that great refusal is a gesture that's made in the face of defeat. And how we need to approach politics is to think about it is to begin, as I said, from that standpoint that we don't have any power, and then tie all of our political strategy around the goal of trying to build it. And what trying to build it means, among other things, is appealing to people who don't already agree with you about a lot of stuff, and having those kind of sustained contacts that you have with people in an organizing campaign, where you're building confidence and standing and relations with people over time, not coming around to give them speeches about how the righteous thing to do is to vote for Jill Stein. So in that sense, I mean, that's what what the festivity about the movement that you probably rightly read between the lines of that piece was.